My sister stole my fiancé 3 days before our wedding, so I gave her a wedding gift she'll never forget. I should have seen it coming. Maya was always the golden child. Prettier, smarter, more charming. Growing up, she took my clothes, my friends, and then my boyfriends. When I was 16, she convinced my crush, Tommy Martinez, to go to prom with me instead by telling him I'd been talking about another guy. When I was 22, she moved in with my college boyfriend David, while I was studying abroad in Italy, claiming she was helping him through the depression of his father's death. Every time, my parents defended her with the same tired excuses. Maya doesn't want to hurt you, my mother would say, stroking my hair as I cried. She just has such a magnetic personality. People are drawn to her. Your sister isn't evil, my father would add. She's just young and doesn't think things through. But Maya always did. I learned this the hard way when, at 15, I found her diary full of detailed plans to steal my friends, my opportunities, my life. She wrote about Tommy. Claire is so boring. I'm sure I could get him to notice me in one conversation. David is too good for Claire anyway. She doesn't appreciate what she has. But I thought Jake Patterson was different. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. We met at a restaurant where I waited tables to pay for nursing school, and he worked as a cook with dreams bigger than his salary. Jake loved the way I made him laugh during his worst kitchen disasters, scraping scorched sauce off pans at 2 in the morning while practicing new recipes. He loved the way I supported his dreams of opening a restaurant, pouring my entire savings account, $23,000, into his business plan when banks wouldn't lend him money. He loved that I believed in him when his own family called him a loser for dropping out of college to go to culinary school. Jake had seen Maya manipulate men before. He sat through family dinners when she flirted shamelessly with my high school boyfriend Matt in front of me, then claimed she was just being friendly when I confronted her. He rolled his eyes at her comments during wedding dress fittings. Claire's so practical, but wouldn't something more form-fitting be better? You want Jake to be excited, not comfortable. He laughed when she accidentally spilled red wine on my wedding photos at last year's Christmas party, claiming the lighting made me look washed out and suggesting we reshoot them with a photographer, friend of hers. Your sister is exhausting, he told me after the party. I don't know how you put up with her constant drama. I, as always, defended Maya. She means well. She just has no filter. The rehearsal dinner was perfect. We rented a private room at Bella Vista, the restaurant where Jake and I had our first official date. 50 of our closest family and friends filled the space with laughter and champagne toasts. Jake squeezed my hand under the table as my dad gave his speech about finding his soulmate. How proud he was to welcome Jake into our family, how he'd watched Jake grow from an aspiring cook into a man worthy of his daughter's love. Maya sat across from us, beaming in her sapphire bridesmaid dress that cost me $400, toasting our happiness with champagne and the smile I'd trusted my entire life. She insisted on sitting directly across from Jake, claiming it was the best place for photos. Throughout dinner, she leaned forward when Jake spoke, laughed a little louder at his jokes, touched his arm when making comments about the timing of the wedding. She's just so thrilled for you, Jake whispered when I noticed her behavior. Maya was always dramatic. When it came time for the mother of the bride to speak, Mia stood up, tears in her eyes, holding the microphone as if she were addressing the United Nations. Claire has always been my role model, she said, her voice shaking with what seemed like genuine emotion. She taught me about loyalty, about standing by the people you love no matter what. When Jake came into her life, I saw my sister transform into the happiest version of herself. Jake, you're getting someone who will fight for your dreams, who will stand by you through everything. Claire, you're getting someone who sees how incredible you are. She raised her glass with a shaky hand. To Claire and Jake, may you always choose each other first, no matter what challenges come your way. The room erupted in applause. Jake kissed my cheek, whispering, "Your sister loves you very much." I felt guilty for ever doubting Maya's intentions. 2 nights later, I couldn't sleep. Wedding nerves, I thought. Our big day was in 18 hours. I had already laid out my dress, a vintage A-line gown with hand-embroidered pearls that my grandmother wore in 1952. I had confirmed the final guest count with the caterer. 147 guests. I double-checked that the rings were safely tucked in Jake's best friend's pocket and made sure the photographer knew to specially photograph my parents' wedding bands next to ours. My phone was set to alarm every hour to remind me to drink water and eat something. At 5 in the morning, I gave in and decided to surprise Jake with coffee at his apartment, our last morning as singles. I bought his favorite dark coffee from a 24-hour diner and fresh bagels. My key turned in his lock, as it had hundreds of times, the same lock I'd helped him install when he moved into the one-bedroom above Mrs. Chen's flower shop. I found them in his bed. My sister, my fiancé, the white silk lingerie I'd bought for our honeymoon, $300 of delicate lace from a boutique Maya recommended, tangled around her ankles. The engagement ring I'd watched him save for while working 2 jobs for 8 months, glittering on the nightstand next to empty champagne flutes and what looked like takeout from Russo's, the Italian restaurant where we'd celebrated 6 months of dating. Maya saw me first. Instead of shame or surprise, I saw triumph in her eyes. She'd been waiting for this moment, planning it. I was going to tell you, she said, sitting up slowly, making no attempt to cover herself. Jake knew he'd picked the wrong sister. Jake frantically searched for his boxers, mumbling apologies about how it just happened, about being confused, about how he still loved me somehow. His face was red with shame and panic, sweat covering his forehead as he tried to find the words to explain what I'd seen. Claire, it's not what it looks like, he said, the most cliched lie imaginable. But Maya cut him off with a laugh that made my blood run cold. The same laugh she used to tell our parents that I'd broken my mother's antique vase when we were 12. The laugh that meant she'd won again. Stop pretending you're sorry, Jake. We've been planning this for months. Tell her about the hotel room in Vegas when you went to that restaurant conference. Tell her about Christmas when you said my name in your sleep. Tell her how last week you said you wished you met me first. My knees nearly buckled. The Vegas conference had been in March, 7 months ago. Christmas had been at my parents' house, with Maya sleeping in the guest room next to ours. Last week, when Jake had been suspended and cited stress from work. Tell her about the loan. Mia continued, her voice growing stronger, more confident. Tell her how you plan to use her savings to open a restaurant with me instead. My head was spinning. My $23,000. Money I'd saved working 60 hours a week as a nurse, moonlighting on holidays, skipping meals to save every dollar I could. The money that would finance the restaurant of our dreams. Patterson's Place. Maya, stop, Jake said weakly. But she was on a roll. Tell her about the apartment we looked at last week, the one with the big kitchen and the view of the garden. Tell her how we plan to move out right after the wedding. Take her money and start over in Portland. Portland. Jake had mentioned Portland recently, saying a chef friend had offered him a job there. I'd been urging him to consider it, thinking it would be good for us to start over somewhere new. For months, while I'd been ordering flowers and scheduling cake tastings, sending out invitations and choosing centerpieces, RSVPing and making seating plans, they'd been planning my humiliation. The all-nighters. Jake claimed he spent working at the restaurant, coming home smelling of perfume he said belonged to the waitresses. The times Maya canceled our shopping trips together because she had a date with someone she couldn't tell me about yet. The way they were both so helpful with the wedding planning, insisting on taking on the photographer and videographer themselves because they knew someone who could save us money. We chose Chelsea Morrison, Maya said of the photographer. She's incredible at taking news photos. She'll capture every moment. Now I understood why. I left without saying a word. They were still calling my name as I walked down the narrow stairs. Jake's voice broke as he begged me to listen. Maya's voice was sharp and demanding, telling him to let me go. Claire, please, Jake called out his window as I got into the car. Let me explain. I drove away slowly, looking at him in the rearview mirror as he stood half naked in the window, probably aware that his life was about to explode. I spent the next 6 hours sitting in the car on Sunset Beach, the place where Jake had proposed to me 13 months earlier. He'd planned a lavish sunset picnic with my favorite Thai food and a playlist of songs that meant something to our relationship. When he got down on one knee, he talked about building a life together, about me being his best friend and his future in one person. I can't imagine doing any of this without you, he said, his hands shaking as he opened the ring box. You make me a better person in every way. I should have been crying, calling my parents, canceling suppliers. Instead, I felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. Maya had taken everything from me since we were kids. And every time I forgave her, because family is supposed to forgive. But this was different. This wasn't a borrowed sweater or a stolen boyfriend. This was my future, my money, my life, that she was planning to destroy. I drove home at 11 o'clock in the morning to find my parents in the kitchen, frantically calling vendors to cancel the wedding. My mother was sobbing after talking to the florist about losing her deposit. My father looked 10 years older, his hair disheveled from arguing with the caterer about their cancellation policy. Honey, my mother said when she saw me, her mascara running down her cheeks. Jake called. He explained the mix-up with Maya. He says he's just having pre-wedding doubts, the kind of thing that happens to couples before a big commitment. Maybe you two can fix it if you just talk. Even now, they were on his side. Maya was their precious baby who could do no wrong, and Jake was practically family after 4 years. I was just the injured party who should have been more understanding. There's no confusion, I said calmly, setting my purse on the counter. The wedding is still going on tomorrow, just not the way everyone expects. My parents exchanged worried glances. Dad cleared his throat. Honey, maybe you're in shock. This is a lot to process. Why don't you sit down and we can figure out how to move forward? I'm not in shock, I said, pouring myself a glass of water with steady hands. I was thinking clearly for the first time in months, and I said, the wedding is still going on. I locked myself in my childhood room and got to work. First, I called my cousin Derek, who worked in information security for a company that protected celebrities from stalkers and corporate espionage. Derek has always been my favorite relative, 3 years older, wickedly smart, and the one who never gave in to Maya's manipulations. When we were kids, he was the one who called her on the lies she told about breaking things or stealing money from our grandmother's purse. I need a favor, I said when he answered. Remember when you said I could ask for anything after I helped you through your divorce? Derek's ex-wife tried to take everything from him, including his dog and his grandmother's wedding ring. I spent 3 months helping him document her affair and her attempts to hide assets. When the divorce was final, he got full custody of the dog and kept everything she tried to steal. Name it, he said immediately. I explained the situation, the connection, the money, the planned betrayal. Derek listened without interrupting, making occasional sounds of disgust. These pieces of shit, he said when I was finished. What do you want? Derek had designed security systems for celebrity weddings, installed hidden cameras in offices for corporate investigations, and helped several friends gather evidence of adultery. He understood discretion. More importantly, he understood revenge. I need to know everything, I said. How long this has been going on, what they were planning, whether there were others involved, and I need it documented in a way that can't be questioned or denied. Give me Jake's address and phone number, Derek said. I can install micro cameras in his apartment within 2 hours. His phone can be cloned if I can get physical access for 30 seconds. How technical do you want to get? As technical as necessary. And Derek, I need this to be done legally. It has to be legal if it comes down to it. Leave it to me. Jake's building doesn't have surveillance cameras, right? And his lease probably includes standard provisions for manager access for maintenance. I'll pose as the guy who fixes cable. Half the buildings in this area are having internet problems this week. Then I called Chelsea Morrison, the wedding photographer Maya had personally recommended. Chelsea specialized in casual moments and had an impressive portfolio capturing the raw emotion of weddings. Her website featured testimonials from brides praising her ability to document the real story of their special day. Chelsea, this is Claire Richardson. You're photographing my wedding tomorrow. Oh my God, Claire. I'm so excited. Maya's been telling her so much about me. Are you getting wedding jitters? You sound a little tense. Interesting. Maya's been telling her about me. Actually, I'm calling because there's been a change in plans. I have a very specific shot list for tomorrow and I need to know if you're up for capturing some unconventional moments. Of course, I pride myself on getting the shots other photographers miss. What did you have in mind? I need you to document everything that happens tomorrow. Everything. Even if it seems inappropriate or uncomfortable. Especially if it seems inappropriate or uncomfortable. Can you do that? There was a pause. Maya mentioned that you might want dramatic shots. She said, "You're really into authentic storytelling. I'm totally up for it. Should I bring extra memory cards?" Okay, Maya's been planning this for a while, setting up her friend to document my humiliation. Perfect. Bring everything you've got. And Chelsea, there may be some video components to the event tomorrow. Are you up for a live stream? Absolutely. I do a lot of social media integration. Will it be on Instagram stories or Facebook Live? Something like that. One more thing. I need you to keep this conversation between us. The elements of surprise won't work if word gets out. Your secret is safe with me. Maya always said you were more creative than people gave you credit for. After I hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Maya had been planning this humiliation for months, setting up her photographer friend to capture my breakdown. She was probably imagining viral videos of me sobbing at the altar, content that would haunt me forever. Then I made the hardest call. "Mrs. Patterson," I said, when Jake's mother answered on the second ring. "It's Claire. I have something important to tell you about the wedding tomorrow." Jake's mother, Patricia, had never liked Maya. She'd called her that manipulative little peacock after Maya had flirted shamelessly with Jake's married brother at our engagement party, with hair tugging and inappropriate touching while his wife was in the bathroom. Mrs. Patterson was an old-fashioned Baptist with strong opinions about moral behavior and women who threw themselves at other people's men. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked, catching on to my tone immediately. "You look upset." I told her all about finding them together, about the months of lies, about how they'd planned to humiliate me at my wedding and steal my savings, about the apartment in Portland and the restaurant they were going to open with my money. The silence lasted so long, I thought she'd hung up. I heard her breathing short and sharp as if she were trying to control herself. "Those wicked children," she whispered at last, her voice shaking with rage. "After everything you've done for that boy, after you've stood by him while he was being saved by Colin, after even his own father had called him useless, Jake's father had been especially cruel at family dinners, constantly comparing Jake to his successful older brother who worked in finance. I've spent countless evenings rebuilding Jake after his father had humiliated him. Mrs. Patterson, I have a plan," I said, "but I need your help. Tell me what you need, sweetheart." That boy has been on a downward spiral his whole life, and Maya is the woman who's going to drag him straight to hell. Mrs. Patterson had waited 30 years to put someone like Maya in her place. She had grown up in a small southern town where women who stole men from other women were dealt with quickly and publicly. She understood the value of old-fashioned payback. I explained my plan. Mrs. Patterson listened, making occasional sounds of approval. "Are you sure this is legal?" she asked when I had finished. "Derek is handling the technicalities. It will all be properly documented. And technically, I am not doing anything except letting the truth out at my wedding. Okay, Jake needs to learn that there are consequences for actions. And Maya needs to learn that not everyone is going to just roll over and let her take what she wants. There is one more thing, I said. I need you to make sure Jake comes tomorrow. If he tries to run away or back out, it won't work. Oh, he'll be there, Mrs. Patterson said grimly. I'll make sure of it. That boy owes you an explanation to everyone who's come to support your relationship. At the very least, he can face the consequences. The morning of my wedding, I woke up at 6 o'clock, feeling calmer than I had in months. My phone was already buzzing with messages. Bridesmaids asking about the time. Caterers confirming details. Relatives asking for directions to the church. Maya texted me at 6:15. Jake told me everything. I'm so sorry, sis. I never meant for this to happen. Can we talk before the ceremony? I need to explain. I stared at the message for a full minute. Even now she was lying, planning one last manipulation, probably hoping to convince me to quietly call it off so she and Jake could ride off into the sunset with my money. I texted back, sure, I'll see you at the church. We'll have plenty of time to talk. Little did she know I'd spent the night making sure every detail was perfect for her special day. Derek texted me at 3 in the morning. The package was delivered. Everything was in place. You'll love the bonus material. Bonus material meant he'd found more than I expected. Maya and Jake had probably been careless, thinking they were safe once the wedding was over. My hair and makeup team arrived at 8 in the morning. I kept the original notes, telling them there had been some changes, but that we were proceeding as planned. Sarah, my makeup artist, noticed my calm. You look very serene for a bride, she said as she applied foundation. Usually by this time, brides are crying or screaming or both. I'm exactly where I need to be, I said, and it was true. At 10 a.m., I arrived at St. Mary's Catholic Church in my wedding dress. The guests were already arriving. 200 people who had taken the day off from work, bought gifts, booked hotels, and driven from California to celebrate what they thought was my happy ending. I saw Jake's college roommates in the parking lot, laughing and adjusting their ties. My friends from nursing school crowded the entrance, admiring the floral arrangements I'd spent months choosing. Mia waited in the bridal salon, wearing a sapphire bridesmaid dress that had cost me $400. She looked nervous for the first time in her life, running her fingers through her hair and obsessively checking her reflection. When I walked in, she jumped as if she'd been caught in the act of something unseemly. Claire, I need to explain. No explanation is needed, I said, gently smoothing her hair. You want Jake? You can have him. Her face lit up with relief and victory, the same look she'd worn when she convinced our parents to let her have my bedroom when I went away to college. Really? You're not mad? How could I be mad? I smiled serenely. You're my sister? If you think Jake is your soulmate, who am I to stand in the way of true love? Maya was practically glowing. She had gotten everything she wanted. No consequences. Again, in her head, I was the same simple sister who always gave in whenever she wanted something. You're being so mature, she said, hugging me carefully so as not to ruin our makeup. I was afraid you'd make a scene. Me? Make a scene? I laughed. When have I ever made a scene? Never, she said quickly. You've always been so level-headed. That's why Jake and I knew you'd understand eventually. There's just one tiny change to the ceremony, I said casually, helping her touch up her lipstick. Since you two are so much in love, I thought you should be the one walking down the aisle tonight. Maya's eyes widened. What do you mean? I arranged for you to marry Jake instead of me. Right now, in front of everyone, the color drained from her face. Claire, can't we just... Why not? You love him. He loves you. Everyone's here. The flowers are paid for. The cake is done. The photographer is on site, and I've made some very special arrangements to document your big moment. I could see her mind racing. This was not the plan she was going to steal my fiancé with. She wanted to do it slowly, carefully, making herself look like an innocent victim, carried away by an unexpected love. She wanted to be the tragic heroine of a romance novel, not the homewrecker who stole her sister's wedding. But what will you tell them? She asked weakly. The truth, I said simply. That my sister and my fiancé have found their soulmates in each other, that I am making way for true love, that everyone must witness the beginning of your beautiful life together. Mia knew she was trapped. If she refused, she would look like the manipulative homewrecker she was. If she agreed, she would marry Jake before she could consider the consequences. And saying no now would require explaining to 200 guests why she couldn't marry the man she'd been having an affair with for months. Where's Jake? She asked, her voice barely audible, getting ready in the men's room. He's so excited to marry you, Maya. He kept saying you were everything he'd ever wanted in a woman. It was a lie. Jake had been texting me frantically all day, begging me to talk, promising it was all a mistake. He'd called 17 times between 6 and 8 in the morning before I'd blocked his number. I'd forwarded all his messages to Mia, along with a note. Your fiancé seems nervous. Maybe you should comfort him. 20 minutes later, Mia stood at the back door of St. Mary's Church in a hastily altered wedding dress borrowed from our cousin Jennifer, who happened to be the same size and had brought her own dress for the photo shoot. The congregation murmured in disbelief as Pastor Williams stepped up to the microphone. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Pastor Williams said carefully, reading from the script I had given him, today we celebrate the union of Jake Patterson and Maya Richardson, instead of Claire Richardson and Jake Patterson. The murmurs grew louder. I sat in the front row next to my parents, who looked confused and at a loss. My dad kept whispering, to which I responded with serene smiles and vague answers about love finding its way. Maya's smile was strained as she walked down the aisle toward Jake, who stood at the altar looking like he was about to puke. He looked at me desperately, probably hoping I would stop this madness. The organist played Here Comes the Bride as the congregation watched the strangest wedding they had ever attended. Chelsea, the photographer, was enthusiastically clicking the shutter as I had asked. She was perfectly positioned to capture both Maya's strained smile and Jake's obvious distress. When Pastor Williams asked if anyone objected to the union, I felt 200 pairs of eyes on me. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. I smiled serenely and nodded encouragingly for the ceremony to proceed. Jake, Pastor Williams said, looking over his notes, do you take Maya to be your lawful wife, to love and to cherish, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live? Jake looked at me again, pleading. I kept my expression serene. He had no choice. His mother glowered at him from the second row. 200 guests waited for his answer. Maya clutched his hand so tightly her knuckles were white. Yes, he croaked. Maya, do you take Jake to be your lawful husband, to love and to cherish, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as you both live? Mia hesitated for a moment, perhaps realizing that for richer or poorer might not go as she planned, but she lifted her chin defiantly, putting on the performance of her life. Yes, you may kiss the bride. The kiss was awkward and brief, more of a light touch than a passionate embrace. Chelsea captured it all, along with the uncomfortable expressions of the bridal party and the embarrassed murmurs of the guests. During cocktail hour, I played the role of the perfect, gracious sister. I moved through the crowd, explaining that love had simply found another way, that I was glad to see my sister and Jake together, that sometimes the universe had other plans than we did. You're doing so well, said Mrs. Chen, Jake's elderly neighbor, who had known him since he moved into the apartment above her flower shop. Most women would be devastated. Mia and Jake were made for each other, I said with a serene smile. I see that now. Sometimes it takes a dramatic moment to bring out the truth. Jake's college friends looked stunned, but resigned. Maya's sisterhood seemed impressed by what they considered a romantic twist worthy of reality TV. The older relatives whispered among themselves, clearly shocked but not wanting to cause a scene. Ma and Jake sat at the head of the table during dinner, growing increasingly nervous as reality set in. They had been married to each other without a prenup, in front of everyone they knew. Jake kept checking his phone, probably looking for an escape route that didn't exist. Maya kept her bright smile on, but I could see the panic growing in her eyes. The dinner was exactly what I'd planned for my wedding to Jake. Salmon with lemon caper sauce, roasted vegetables, wild rice pilaf. The cake was still the 3-tiered vanilla raspberry creation I'd spent hours designing with the pastry chef. Even the flowers were the same, white roses and baby's breath, which I'd chosen because they reminded me of my grandmother's garden. Everything was perfect for Maya's special day. That's when I stood up to present my wedding gift. Before we cut the cake, I announced, tapping my champagne flute with a silver knife, I have a special surprise for the happy couple. The room went silent as the guests turned their attention to me. Maya and Jake looked confused but expectant, probably thinking I was about to give them some sob speech about making way for true love. As many of you know, I continued, Maya and Jake's love story has been going on for quite some time. I thought it would be wonderful to share that journey with you all. The lights dimmed and a large screen lowered from the ceiling, the same screen we'd rented for the slideshow of baby photos and romantic moments. Derek took a seat at a corner table, laptop open, ready to present. Chelsea did an amazing job documenting their relationship, I said, gesturing toward the photographer who was still snapping away. But today, I want to share some early footage that really captures the depth of their connection. The video began with Maya and Jake in bed in his apartment, not from the night I caught them, but from 3 months earlier. Derek's hidden cameras captured everything in crystal clear HD. In the footage, they laughed at how naive I'd been to plan my breakup strategy after the wedding. Claire's always been so trusting, Maya said in the video, naked on my fiancé's bed. She has no idea we've been planning this since March. The room went dead silent. You could hear the 200 stunned guests simultaneously holding their breath. Tell me about the money again, Jake said on the screen, running his hands over Maya's body. 23 grand. She's been saving for years. Once we're married and move to Portland, she'll never be able to touch it again. We'll have enough to open a restaurant and disappear before she can do anything about it. The video went on, months of planning, Jake rehearsing his breakup speech while Mia tried on my wedding dress in his apartment, Mia calculating how much money they'd save by keeping all the wedding vendors I'd already paid, Jake telling me how easy it would be for him to manipulate me into signing over the power of attorney for the restaurant business. The most damning clip was from a week ago. Maya was on the phone with someone. Claire has always been pathetic. She'll probably beg Jake to take her back after the wedding, but she'll be long gone by then. She's too weak to fight for anything. 200 guests, watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded on the screen in excruciating detail. Jake's mother stood up and walked out halfway through, her face twisted in disgust. My parents sat there, paralyzed with horror. Maya's sorority friends were filming everything on their phones, probably already posting it on social media. When the video ended, I stood up with the microphone, my expression calm and pleasant. "Surprise," I said cheerfully. I figured everyone should know what kind of love story they were celebrating tonight. The room erupted. Guests started getting up and leaving, some throwing their napkins angrily on the tables. Jake's groomsmen looked ready to fight him. Mia had her face buried in her hands as her mother-in-law's friends walked past, muttering about moral decay and the decline of family values. But I wasn't done yet. "One more gift," I announced as chaos raged around us. Derek stood up from his corner table and nodded. Every phone in the room simultaneously received the same text message. A link to a private website where the full video was posted, along with screenshots of Jake and Maya texting each other as they plotted my humiliation and financial betrayal. "Just so everyone can remember this special day," I said sweetly. The website contained all the footage Derek had been collecting for the past week, including some sweet conversations about how they plan to disappear to Portland with my life savings. "And Maya, honey, you might want to check your social media. I've already tagged everyone I know." Maya looked at her phone and screamed. The video was spreading across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok faster than she could delete her notifications. Derek had made it impossible to delete. He uploaded it to multiple platforms at once, sending it to every gossip blog and local news station in town. "The hashtag is our sisterly love," I added helpfully. "Feel free to share your thoughts." Jake finally found his voice, his face flushed with humiliation and rage. "Claire, you're crazy. We can annul this marriage." "Actually," I said, pulling out a folder thick with legal papers, "you can't. You're both over 18, of sound mind, and you said yes in front of 200 witnesses. Consummation isn't required for a legal marriage in this state, and there's no evidence of coercion." Derek helped me research the laws. "Congratulations, you're stuck with each other." "That's stalking porn," Maya shrieked, pointing to the screen where her naked image was still displayed. "I'm going to sue you." "Actually," Derek called out, standing and addressing the room as if he were giving a legal presentation, "it was all filmed in areas where you had no expectation of privacy. The lease for Jake's building specifically mentioned surveillance cameras in the common areas because of recent break-ins. The management company installed them legally, with the consent of the tenants. Jake signed the papers 3 months ago. Plus, the church ceremony was a public event that you both consented to being filmed." He held up the official-looking papers. "It's completely legal. I have the releases, consent forms, and legal opinions to prove it." Jake grabbed Maya's hand, his knuckles white with rage. "We're leaving." "Good idea," I said cheerfully. "Your wedding suite at the Hilton is already paid for. Non-refundable, unfortunately. Penthouse suite with champagne and rose petals." I thought you'd appreciate the irony. As they fled through the kitchen to avoid the angry guests and photographers who had begun arriving after Derek's social media post went viral, I heard Mia screaming at Jake for ruining her life. "This is all your fault," she shrieked. "You said she was stupid. You said she'd never fight back. You were the one who wanted to steal her money," Jake yelled back. "You said it would be easy." Their voices faded as they disappeared into the parking lot, leaving behind a room full of stunned guests, discarded wedding favors, and a 3-tiered cake that remained untouched. It took 2 hours to clean up. Guests left in small groups, many stopping to apologize to me for not catching on to the deception sooner. Jake's college friends seemed especially ashamed. They suspected something was wrong, but said nothing because they didn't want to get caught up in the relationship drama. "We should have told you," said Mike, Jake's culinary school roommate. "Jake's been acting weird for months, canceling plans and lying about where he was going. We thought he was just nervous about the wedding." Mrs. Patterson was the last to leave. She hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself," she said. "That boy got exactly what he deserved. And Maya, well, she's about to find out what kind of man she married." "What do you mean?" I asked. Jake has always been selfish and weak. Whenever things get tough, he runs away. Maya thinks she's won the big prize, but she's going to find out she's married to a coward who will blame her for everything that goes wrong in their lives. The next morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom for the first time in months without anxiety clenching my chest. There were hundreds of messages on my phone, but none of the ones I expected. Friends and extended family were contacting me, offering support. They'd always suspected Maya was manipulative, but they'd never seen proof. The video revealed patterns they'd noticed, but ignored. The way she undermined other women, the way she flirted with taken men, the way she always positioned herself as the victim, creating drama. "I always knew there was something wrong with Maya," my college roommate Jessica wrote. "Remember how she tried to convince me you were talking bad about me behind my back? Now I know she was just trying to isolate you from your friends. Investors in Jake's restaurant pulled out after seeing the video. $150,000 in promised funding disappeared overnight. Maya's employer, a conservative law firm specializing in family values, fired her for moral corruption and behavior inconsistent with the firm's Christian principles. The best message was from Jake's brother, David. Thank God you dodged that bullet. Jake has been a selfish bastard since childhood, and Mia is perfect for him. Two narcissists deserve each other. Mom has never been happier to be wrong about someone. 3 months later, I received a message from Mia. I want a divorce. Jake is a nightmare and everyone treats us like parasites. Please help me, I'll get my money back. I screenshot it and posted it on social media with the caption, "Some people never learn." P.S. What money? I didn't give you any money. The comments were cruel. People who watched the wedding video shared it with their friends, and it went viral beyond our local community. Maya and Jake became internet celebrities as the worst people alive and proof that karma is real. A year later, Mia and Jake were still married, not because they wanted to be, but because neither of them could afford a divorce lawyer. Their reputations were in ruins. Their careers were destroyed. They moved to 3 different states, but Derek's video followed them everywhere. Social media algorithms ensured that anyone who searched for their names would find their wedding footage. Maya had to legally change her name, and she worked as a cashier at a gas station in Wyoming. Jake washed dishes at a diner at a freight depot. His dreams of owning a restaurant were shattered forever. Every time they tried to start over, someone would recognize them from the video. I spent the year traveling, starting my own nursing consulting business, and reinventing myself outside of Jake's stranglehold. The money I saved for his restaurant became seed money for my own company, helping hospitals improve their patient care protocols. Last month, I got engaged to Derek, the cousin who helped orchestrate the perfect revenge. He understood loyalty, creativity, and the importance of standing up for yourself. Our relationship naturally evolved from friendship to something deeper as we worked together to rebuild my life. "You know, I fell in love with you during the planning," he said when he proposed. "Seeing you take control of your life, it was the sexiest thing I've ever seen." Maya sent a bittersweet congratulatory card to her parents' home. "I hope your marriage lasts longer than your capacity to forgive." I sent a simple reply. "It will. I've finally learned to choose people who choose me first." The wedding is next spring. Maya and Jake aren't invited, but I'm sure they'll find a way to watch the video online. After all, Derek has already promised to livestream the entire affair with the hashtag #YourAllLove. The guest list includes everyone from the first wedding, all looking forward to celebrating a real love story this time. Mrs. Patterson will be walking me down the aisle since my father passed away last fall. Even Jake's college friends are coming, bringing their wives, eager to meet the woman who exposed the scammers. The best part is that every vendor from the original wedding has volunteered their services for free. The photographer, the florist, the caterer, they're all eager to be a part of a real celebration after being unwitting participants in Maya and Jake's deception. This time, the cake designer tells me we're going to do something sweet enough to wash away the bitter taste of last year's disaster. I couldn't agree more.